There we go. Let me get this unplugged here. There we go. Just had to modify a little equipment. Painting for PTSD, episode 3. Now, I'm retired police. I've been in the military. I've worked in corrections and max security prison. Retired from that. Retired from all of that. And what I want to tell you first, painting for PTSD. We're going to do something today, and the topic is the signs I missed. I'm 57 years old. I didn't admit I had PTSD until last year, until I was 56 years old. But what I want people to do, if you know anybody that possibly has PTSD, anybody that's suffering, has some signs, anybody that you're just concerned and worried about, share this with them. Please share this with them. Now, here's the purpose for me doing this painting for PTSD. I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist. What I am is somebody who's been through a lot, seen a lot of bad things. And I, after admitting this last year, writing my 3rd book, thank you, welcome, recognizing the signs I missed. When writing my 3rd book, which I can't reveal the topic yet, I had to stop last year because the things were just catching up to me. And I realized my wife knew all along that I had some PTSD issues. I finally admitted it. And it's hard. In episode 1, I talked about that, admission, coming out and saying, yes, I have PTSD. So anybody that's been a victim, I'm not just talking about military, police, people that's been in violent encounters, and I explained this in the other 2 episodes. There are a lot of people, domestic violence, different types of abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, that have signs of PTSD, something that has affected their mental or emotional well-being. What I'm doing in this podcast is putting down a gun and a knife, 29 years in law enforcement, and I'm doing something with my hands that's crafty, painting, drawing. There's different projects. And today, what I'm going to do, and you can see this notebook paper. What this is a street, and I'm going to explain some things here. I'll back up a little bit. You'll see me better. And you'll probably be visited here. Special guest Klaus, my little white Chihuahua mix. But I'm going to tell you something here. And before we get into this, in the very beginning of my police career after the military, and I was a police in the Air Force, get out of the police academy, go through your training, your field training officer program. You get out to be by yourself. And this is what happened to me as I'm brand new. There's 2 incidents that happened within 30 days of each other that would really give some warning signs, and you would be like, man, he's not thinking right. You come out of the academy, you've got all this notebooks, textbooks, stuff of how to be a police, how to do this, how to process scenes, how to process crime scenes. So get a call, and I happened to be with another officer, senior officer. He was telling me something. We'd met in the parking lot, you see the cruisers side by side. We get a call on the radio, confirmed, and this is back before the computers. This is just straight radio talk, before cell phones, anything. We've got a confirmed suicide by firearm. We're rolling the coroner. So we automatically know, hey, something. The senior officer with me there, Bob, he calls and says, is family on scene? Who's reporting this? Yes, family's on scene. So we go to get there. It's about 5 o'clock, in the evening, right before dinner time. And there's couple officers on scene. We pull in there. And, just not knowing we're pretty close, we were lights and siren. We get in there, and then unmarked car there. I jump out, my lights are on, everything. I'm brand new. I'm like, I should shut my car off. We're going to be here a while. I don't want to waste gas. And the first thing that I thought that is because I saw the police chief's unmarked car pulled in the yard. And this was down US 42 in Boone County. And I knew he lived south of there. He was on his way home. That's why he stopped in. I did know that. So my lights are on. Of course, it ran the battery down in my car real quick because of all his electronics. Rookie mistake. Go inside here, and there's a family. They're in tears, multiple children, woman's crying, and we're told that the 13-year-old boy found his father deceased of a gunshot wound to the head. So we go inside into the bedroom. We're looking, confirming, we're trying to preserve the scene, looking for the gun, for the entry, exit, stuff like that. Bullet in the wall. We're going through all this crime scene stuff like you see on TV. And at no point during this, see the family and you see all them crying and where's the bedroom, where's the victim, where's the gun, the bullet, the wall. Everything I just explained, not once did it go through my mind and my heart that here's a suffering family here and here's a deceased person here in the bed, and he was found by his 13-year-old son. Now, normally, a normal person hearing this, not being involved in law enforcement or things involving death like this, you would say, oh, that's a tragedy, and realize the shock on this 13-year-old who just walked in a bedroom and found his dad dead from a gunshot, self-inflicted gunshot wound. No, I'm new and I'm into the crime scene thing, and then I was worried that I'd ran the battery down on my car. That's a clue. Procedurally, going through a process where a human life was lost and a family is suffering. Within 30 days of that, and that incident didn't catch up to me for many years. Many suicide calls as a police officer later, I remembered that one over and over, and as I was kind of comparing and realizing. Within 30 days, I get a call, respond to such and such, Big Bone State Park in Boone County in Kentucky in Union. It's call here. So they tell me call here. We're rolling other units. We're going to put a squad on standby, possible suicide attempt. So, hey, with no cell phones back then, no computers in a police car. So I have to find a payphone and get out of my cruiser, call 911 real quick, and they tell me. And they said, hey, we've got a Kentucky State Police detective who's calling and saying that his daughter's boyfriend is possibly in the park. Here's a vehicle description. They believe he's armed and he may commit suicide. Okay, so I got the facts. I write it down in my little notebook in my shirt. I get onto the park. It's way out there. And this is back when you had a supervisor and 3 officers. You covered a lot of ground. Your backup wasn't close. So I go down there, and lo and behold, and they told me where the favorite spot that the boy and girl used to like to go and kiss and hang out and stuff. And I go and I find the vehicle, and I find this young man just a little bit over the hill. And right away in his pants pocket, I looked in the car, and I found a box on the floorboard. It was a Davis 380, brown cover, light cover. And I know this because I have the same Davis 380. Cost $100. It was a cheap gun. But then I find a box of shells, and it's missing shells. So I know he's got a gun and got bullets. I'm down there and I find him, and I see the gun outline in his pants pocket. People wear their pants too tight and you can see everything in their pockets. Well, I knew this was a 380. I dropped down to my knee, told him put his hands up, turn around, turn all the way around, give him instruction. I wanted to make sure anything else. He wouldn't put his hands up. Immediately, he stands up, puts his hand in his pocket like this. You can see on my sweatpants here. He's got his hand in his pocket, the gun's in there, and I tell him, man, if that gun comes out of that pocket, it's a threat. I'm going to shoot you. And I'm giving him instructions. And he's crying, and I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to de-escalate. His hand's on the gun in the pocket. I mean, 380's not a big not a big semi-auto. Not very big, and when your hand's around there, you can tell. And here comes the state police detective. He shows up in his unmarked car. I can hear him coming. He was screaming down there, the motor, the brakes. You hear this. He pulls up, belly's hanging over, which is not typical for state police. Got his big old belt buckle and his badge all there in his gun. He's like, I'll take it from here. I got this. I said, no, this is my scene. I got him at gunpoint. You don't interfere with me. And I'm kneeling down, and I've got this kid at gunpoint because he's got a gun in his pocket. I can see the imprint of a gun. I can testify to this, and it comes out, I'm shooting. He's going to be a threat. All he's got to do is let go, pull his hand out, fingers out, and I'll see that impression of the gun in there. He tried to take charge. I told him again, you're not taking charge. You're not taking charge. Backup officer gets there. Coincidentally, Bob, the same one that was at the other suicide I just explained a few minutes ago. And Bob tells the trooper, hey, leave him alone. He's got this. He's got this under control. I'm giving instructions. I'm giving instructions. He will not take his hand away from that gun. I said, look, there's three of us here. We got three guns. There's no way out of this except your hand comes straight up without this gun, like I've explained. Finally, I get him to pull the gun out of his hand, or the hand out of his pocket, and leave that gun in there. I can see it. I said, hands over your head fast. I get his hands up. I give him directions. He walks over to a vehicle, puts his hands on the vehicle. My partner, Bob, goes over. I'm at gunpoint. I'm to the side, so there's no crossfire. Bob goes over, puts his hand, traps it on there, secures and pulls that 380 out of his pocket, secures it, handcuffs go on. Detective's like, hey, you don't have to do all that. He's like, yes, he's got a gun. You need to back off. Yeah, state police, and we were county police. And all of a sudden we got this jurisdictional thing. And it's because the state troopers, detective's daughter was dating this boy. Okay, well, we got procedures regardless of if he's dating or not. We got procedures and protocols on how to deal with suicide people. Suicidal with a gun. So we get this, we take care of, we put him in, Bob real quick puts him in my back seat so we can make sure we're taking control of this. We figure out some details, the ambulance comes over, we get stuff situated. This all happens when I'm brand new, on my own as police, these two different incidents. Emotion to the brain is not connecting. It's all procedure. Bob recognized that those two events because he asked me later, hey, you remember back in that day when this happened? Is any of that, you losing any sleep, anything bothering you? He asked me some questions. No, it's not. Everything's all good. And thanks everybody for joining. I'm talking about signs that I missed in PTSD as a police officer. Background, Air Force police, worked at police, and then worked in a max security prison. And I've just talked about two incidents within 30 days of each other that I missed some big signs. Now I'm going to talk, and everybody here, you're going to want to hear this. Here's a map with a couple roads, and I'm going to tell you, starting from here, the county line, down to the train tracks, down a road, across this road, past Ryle High School, very famous because Clay Stroud, who killed his whole family in Boone County back in the 90s, I believe 1994, went there in Ryle High School and took his class hostage. I'm going to explain that, and then finally down this road. So ultimately, I'm going to cover maybe 4 miles, and I'm going to explain so many traumatic incidents in this one little spot. You'd wonder, yeah, Steve here has got to have some PTSD. For me to explain all these things like this and just look at a piece of paper like it means nothing. No, it does mean nothing. There's a lot of lives lost in between here and here. So I'm going to explain this stuff now here. And these are calls that I've went to, not just things that I've heard about, or, been in the county. I'm talking about Boone County, Kentucky. Okay, so right here, this is the county line. Frogtown Road here. As you cross into the county line, many on the straight and hilltop, kids hilltopping. 10 to 12 fatal car accidents in 1 mile of hilltopping on this road. So we've got 10 to 12 hilltopping fatal car accidents of teenagers. Let me leave this up for you here so you can see this. Sorry. And there's a road goes to the right. First house right in here. Drug deal went bad, beat to death with a hammer. Now this particular man, and this bears no relevance, only he uses this as his defense, his mental defense. He's a hermaphrodite, but this is the third murder that he's committed in the county, and he's not been prosecuted because he keeps talking about his mental illness and keeps going to get evaluation. Drug deal, guy comes in his garage, takes a hammer and just beats him to death. They call it a rip. He took the drugs. He never had any money. He just took, and it was like kilo of marijuana. It was a brick. Beats that guy to death and then claims self-defense. Puts something in the guy's hand. There's fingerprints on there, like a broom hand or whatever. some kind of wooden stick. So he's justified. So we got 10 or 12 hill-topping fatal accidents with teenagers. Within a half a mile, we got this murder. Within another quarter of a mile, the road comes up here, Tanya Drive. I go to a suicide call right up there. Tragic family, another family finding their loved one. Gunshot suicide here. Train tracks right here. Now, this is in the book. I talk about this in the book I wrote, Why People Kill, with my partner, Timothy Amdahl. It's on Amazon. Why People Kill. Thanks for joining SDN. Thank you. Hi, how you doing? PTSD. Painting for PTSD. Today I'm not painting. I'm just painting a picture of the signs I missed in the PTSD. It took me 56 years for me to say, yes, I have it, which was just last year. So we got all these fatal car wrecks. We got a murder, a suicide. Come to the train tracks. Let me tell you what this young person did. I shouldn't call him a jackass. I should call him other words. Straight across from this road here, he lived in a trailer park. These are some mobile homes right here. Gets in a dispute with his girlfriend. They've got 3 kids together. He's in a red Pontiac Sunfire 5-speed. So he gets this idea in his head. Gets in a car, drives across, goes to the train tracks, stalls the car out, pretends to stall it, slips it in neutral, revs up the gas a few times, he's on the brake or whatever. Starts moving real quick, gets that gear shift off. Then he's trying to start. Well, he's not starting because he's trying to turn the key. I can't go. He's got a clutch, remember, 5-speed. So he's saying the car won't start. Then he jumps out like he's trying to push the car, and he can't push the car. I'm telling you, if you stall a car out on the train tracks with your girlfriend and your 3 blood children, you're not going to stand there and be like, oh, honey, I can't push the car. You're going to move that car, or you're going to get the girl and the kids out of that car. He didn't. He stayed right there messing around. A couple minutes later, a train comes. He backs off. The train hits that car with that girl and 5 kids, knocks it 337 feet. 337 feet to right here, landed in a tree. We had to get the fire department to come up there with a big ladder to check on the status, which we were pretty sure, but to confirm that. Didn't charge him right away. Detectives came, everybody, the prosecutor. They didn't charge him. They wanted to make sure things were right because they were looking at the 3 children and his ex, or his girlfriend, his ex, because she's dead. They all died, unfortunately. Tragic. So in the meantime of this, some of these fellas over here in this mobile home park that live by him get word, and they're like, hey, your car ain't got no car problems. I seen you coming and going today. Guess what happened to this young guy who could not move this vehicle off the train tracks, and his kids, 3 kids, and the girl died? We found out in an interview, he said that, she said they were breaking up, and he kind of had this, he's like, well, if I can't have her, nobody will. He was kind of like that. Detectives got that out of him. Well, the homies in the mobile home park, what was found in this guy's mobile home was food and stuff on the counter. It looked like somebody came in and snatched him, and his body has never been found. And this dates back, about 30 years ago. Body has never been found. They didn't like the fact that he took her out there and killed her and the kids. So people in the mobile home park, he disappeared somehow. Okay, that's Frogtown Road, connects here to US 25. US 25. Turn up US 25, there's a house because it's way back here, right next to mobile home park. Family found the body of one of their loved ones back there. Very suspicious. Could never prove a homicide. Couldn't prove suicide. It was just ruled. It's open investigation. It's cold case. There's a body. So everybody joining, thanks for joining. I'm talking about recognizing signs on this road here. We've got 10 to 12. Can't remember. I didn't count. I'm glad I didn't count. Teenagers' deaths in hill topping, going real fast over the hills and crashing. A murder, drug deal murder in a garage. A suicide. A woman and 3 children died on train tracks because the guy's pretending he can't push the car off. Who knows how this person ended up dead here. You go up 25 up here a little bit, used to call it Richwood Bar and Grill. They'd get drunk, go out here, lay on train tracks. Many suicides, many bodies found, half ran over by trains, just drunk. Oh, she don't love me no more, and crying and laying on train tracks, and bang, half of them are gone. We go back here and find half of a body. Crime scene, going through the process, the textbook. Did it ever involve the emotion and the thought of any of us policemen responding to these? No, it didn't. No, it didn't. 10 to 12 there. Here, we got a murder there. We got a suicide here. We got 4 that died there. 1 that died over here. I can't even tell you. I'm just going to say 10 on the train tracks. Guess what, folks? I'm only a mile and a half, and I'm already talking about 27. 27 bodies there. Unbelievable. We turn down Frogtown Road here. This is Mayhair, and this is Frogtown Road. Little mobile home park right here. This place is crazy. I can't tell you how many bodies were found here. Murders, suicides. We're going to leave that as a question mark. Question mark. Do not know. Intersection right here. This Frogtown Connector Road. Several major fatalities right here. And then one right down here. And this was very tragic. Kids were speeding, high school kids, and got killed. Rainy, stormy night. Car all the way down the hill. It was terrible. It was terrible, the condition that I found that young man in his car down the hill. Keep going down the road a little bit. There was a domestic. Nobody died in this house. Christmas Day, a bad domestic. These 2 ladies that were partners, life partners. One beat the other one up really bad. Officer goes there. She's like, hey, she's cooking meth in the basement, snitched on everything. Got a full meth lab down here. One of them ended up committing suicide later, but it was at a later date. But here's that house. Go a little bit further down the road. Got a suicide here. On this road, a suicide here. Post office, man pulls in the parking lot. Domestic violence, financial problems. Post office parking lot. Commits suicide with a handgun. Main road that goes right down here. Homes, $500,000 up to $4 or $5 million. Suicides right here that I've been to. We get down here to this intersection, US 42. Ryle High School, I said. Ryle High School, famous school. Because that's where Clay Shrout, after... Now see, I'm talking about this road, Frogtown, Ryle. You go up here to Mount Zion, take Mount Zion right here. This is down this road here, Tiburon. That's where Clay Shrout killed his parents and his sisters, young sisters, very young, in this house. I was working shift that night. I just got on off a traffic stop, so at 7 in the morning, I called on the radio, 10-7, I was out of service. The other officer that travels down US 42 past Ryle High School, because he lives up here, happened to be going down here when the call came out. We got a hostage situation. He had been involved, other officer, Pete, had been involved in a call. He was late. We got a hostage situation here at Ryle High School, so he goes to the school. Teacher, who's now assistant principal, talked Clay Shrout into surrendering the gun, gave the gun up, released all the classmates that were hostage here. Y'all heard about this. Real quick, he pled guilty. He was going to be tried as an adult. They were going to seek the death penalty here in Kentucky. So he pled guilty 4 counts for both sisters and parents. Got 4 life sentences without parole. He's down in Florida now. They keep denying him parole. He does not need to ever get out. Let him rot in that prison, I'm telling you. You would not believe the crimes around the school. Right here. Go just a little bit down here. And this will be the end of my map. What I'm painting today is not an actual picture. I'm just painting some of these fatalities and incidents and places I've been in this short period here. What did I say? Maybe 4 miles of road. And I'm going to tell you numbers of people that have died. Right here one day I get a call. And I was day shift, supposed to get off 5 o'clock. And I'd met my wife down this Mount Zion road and back up over. And we'd got an ice cream cone. And they gave me a call. We've got a head-on collision. Dump truck versus auto. Multiple injuries. And there are witnesses stating that there's an infant in the car. And I'm looking at my wife. We got an ice cream cone. I'm like, I'll call you. I'll call you. This was later in my career. I had a cell phone by then. I said, let me get down here. I'll call you. I'm probably going to be late. So I get down there. I'm first on scene. There were 2 cars that got hit by this loaded dump truck. So 80,000 pounds in a dump truck. Hit a car, knocked into another car. Coincidentally, it was another red Pontiac Sunfire in this car wreck. And they told me multiple injuries. And I get there, and these cars are just like a semi ran over a pop can. And I'm looking around, and I'd already forgot about the infant. I'm looking, I didn't see an infant. There were 10 people involved, 1 in the dump truck, and between the 2 cars, the infant was in the child seat. It was properly restrained. Infant did live, let me tell you that first. In this, it's a tragic story. I'm looking around. Dump truck has 1 person, so the 2 cars, there's 9 people. Take the infant away, there's 8 adults. 8 adults and 1 infant. It took me about 5 minutes, and I'm on a radio, and I'm like telling dispatch, I need multiple ambulances. I said, dump truck driver's okay. He just needs checked out. I said, I have 3 DOA dead on arrival. Three people were killed from this impact. 3 adults were killed. So I'm going through my head and, got the driver dump truck, and I've got the 3. I'm looking down because I remember looking down in this vehicle that's crushed, and I'm trying to find people. And the front passenger was the father of the baby that lived. The mother of the baby that lived was in the middle. The car seat was would have been on the right side. Mom's in the middle, another young woman, they're young, 20s, on the left side. Both the women in the back seat were dead. Driver was alive, critical, very critical, like calling a helicopter critical. So I've got 1 alive in the car and 3 that were obviously checking pulse, everything. They were deceased. Go to the other vehicle, and I'm looking around. Go to the other vehicle. 4 people in that vehicle. Very bad shape. Very bad shape. I mean, open fractures, just look like destroyed people, but still living. And then dispatch calls me, and it was probably 2 or 3 minutes because I'm just talking and walking. And they're like, did you find the baby? And I'm like, oh, no, there's baby car seat. I don't see a car seat. And another officer shows up, and I was like, hey, there's supposed to be a baby, and there's a car seat. Where is it? So we don't find it in the cars, and we're thinking that the baby might have been ejected with a car seat. So now we're looking, and I'm telling people, and ambulance guys are showing up. I'm like, hey, we got to find a baby in a car seat. One of the people in the ambulance, thinking ahead, called the hospital, closest hospital, and called and said, by chance, did you just get a baby show up that was in a car wreck? The baby would probably have a lot of blood on it, whether it's injured or not. They said, yes. Some woman just come in and said, there's a bad car wreck, gave the location. Here's this EMT paramedic guy on a cell phone with the hospital. They said, yes. Okay, is the baby injured? Is the baby, conditioned? They said right away, the baby looks like it's healthy. It doesn't look like, it's somebody else's blood. So then this guy gets off the cell phone and says, the baby's at the hospital. Pretty much think it's okay. I said, okay, dispatch, send an officer to the hospital to give me the stuff about the baby. Find out while we're here on the scene. So we get another officer going to the hospital. And I'm down here like, okay, This is so bad. Didn't even remember that they told me there's a baby there. My wife remembers that I called her and explained the details of this wreck and what was going on. Like, I got home about 7 o'clock, a couple hours later, but I did talk to her to let her know. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." And she's listening to the tone in my voice. She knew back then that it would bother me. And I'm just thinking, when you're a policeman and your wife, somebody calls and says, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm not hurt. Nothing's broke. I'm alive. I'm not bleeding. I don't need an ambulance. You never think, "Are you okay?" up here. Are you okay in here? Folks, if you know somebody that's maybe been a victim and that's been in a car wreck where somebody's seriously injured, or that's been killed, or maybe they're just injured themselves, because physical injury causes a lot of stress. Physical stress, mental, emotional stress, eating stress, nausea stress. I can't do what I used to do stress. Go through disability process stress. People are going through a lot in this day and age. You can't see it right now, but when I'm telling you, when my wife called and said, "Am I okay?" I was then, but I'm not now. Because you know what I had to do before I went home that day? Besides get everybody's license and write down and take all their notes and everything and insurance and from the glove box and do all this kinds of stuff. I had to identify these 3 people that were dead in this fatal car wreck. And I had to go get family members, do driver's license and stuff like that, and go by their home. And I had to make notification that the baby's okay, but the mother and father of this baby were killed in Iraq, and the woman's friend was killed. I'm tired of telling families that somebody's in their family has died. I'm tired of making death notifications. I don't do that anymore. Man, I've done many, many, many. Well over 50 of these, and it's terrible. I got 2 close friends that committed suicide, and I got two close friends that have overdosed on drugs because they couldn't handle the PTSD. I'm a man's man, I'm a warrior. But I can tell you I got PTSD, and I'm not afraid to tell you there's tears on my face, and you can see it and you know it. This baby lived without a scratch, with no parents. One thing, and this is odd, and I never really thought about it till now, of all the fatal car wrecks and these suicides and things, nobody ever called the police department. Thank you for your comments there, Michigan. Outpost 231. Thank you, thank you. I'm good. I got Jesus. And the best thing for me, Michigan, Fly Fish, thank you for joining. The best thing for me is to talk about it. It's going to never go away. But there's days, today I'm feeling really bad. I went to the doctor yesterday. I got a lot of trauma in my neck and my head. And I've got some unusual swelling. The dura mater is the layer that surrounds the brain. And they did spinal tap a couple weeks ago in 4-day hospital. And, I laid in the hospital in pain, and they're doing all these tests. And when you've been in a job where you've been around stuff like this, every trip to the hospital, and I've got 2 daughters in nursing, I can go, one's in a hospital, one's in urgent care. And man, I've got so many stories that I could talk until I starve to death and still be talking. But you go to the hospital to visit anybody, and I can walk by and, I've been in that room with somebody dead, and I can tell my wife, or she'll see something in my face. You never get over PTSD. And, I'm not a big fan. Yes and no, but mostly no. I'm not a big fan of professional mental health because they've sent me to their, on agency required, situations that I've seen, and they sent us there. And they're like, oh, well, no, there's no empathy on your part, no sympathy. You guys have no clue. You have no clue what I just witnessed and what I went through. You have no clue what it's like to hold a life in your hands and they die. Me and bring the next one I'm going to bring to your psychology office, and you and I can hold them together. And when they die in both of our arms, then you have a right to talk to me. Sometimes people have that feeling, and you can tell. I kind of switched it. It switched to me. I kind of got like, don't sit there and tell me stuff when all you've done is read a book. You've not pulled people out of the river and went and told their family their face is so swollen. We have to send this body to the morgue and have autopsy and see if somebody can figure out or reconstruct their face and identify them, teeth and records or whatever. We don't even know if it's your loved one that's been missing 3 months. It turns out it was. She was floating under a barge for 3 months. You've never done that, psychology people. So I kind of, I do watch some Sean Ryan podcast there, Fly Fisher. I like the name. Fishing is a hobby. I'm much better at fishing than I am at painting. Yeah. And it's, and I would like to connect with Sean Ryan one day. I want to this is episode 3. I want to get my podcast going. What he's went through and what I've went through are completely different. And, I wasn't in Iraq. I wasn't in a war, like in a special force kind of situation. I saw a lot of victims that, for instance, my daughter called me 2 days ago that works in the urgent care. And she said, we got an 82-year-old woman just came in and said she's having pain down there in the vaginal area. And she was raped 2 weeks ago. And she's still having pain. She didn't call the police and report it. Who in the world's raping this 82-year-old woman? And my daughter's mad. She's ready to go out in the street and beat somebody up for raping this woman. It's 2 weeks ago. Don't have a suspect. Unbelievable. But I'm used to dealing with victims and the trauma. But what I was going to say, I never had anybody call and come back and say, hey, my parents were in this fatal car wreck and I called in and come to find out you're the officer that investigated that. Can you tell me anything? Do you remember anything? Good chance I would remember a lot of things like that. But it never happened. But the one thing that did happen to me that really made me feel good, besides being here to talk, and this is like my outlet. This is like my venting. See, here's my notebook. As you can tell, this isn't a great painting. This is a couple streets with some scribble and squares and words like school, bar, post office. These are places that people have died. And I didn't tell you as we keep going down through here. If I was to count on here, it would be close to 60 people that have died from car wrecks, murder, suicide, or unknown in these little streets in this little story. So if that many people have happened in this area, supervisors, officers, here's my point. If you know somebody, any job, anybody, any family, any friend that could possibly be going through PTSD, send this link to them. Tell them about this. It's called Painting for PTSD. Tell them to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sergeant B. Larson, so they'll know, so they'll see it. I'm not a professional person. I'm just here to listen. And Michigan and Fly Fish, in different podcasts, I've had people tell me that they've been assaulted, physically assaulted, sexually assaulted. They've been in a house with a home invasion and talked about family members being killed in front of them and the trauma that they go through. I've had people tell me that they've been kidnapped, that they've been human trafficked. So I want to be here, looking at the notes. I want to reassure people you're not the only. I don't mean it that way. Let me rephrase that. Take that back. You are not alone, not the only. You are not alone in your feelings. You are not alone in your trauma, in your heartbreak. You're not alone in those night sweats. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff in this going on in my head and neck, like I was telling you. They're going to do some injections. They got other stuff, bunch of other stuff. I've already had spine surgery. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Had to change doctors because they're not. Because you go to the hospital, had a neurologist say, "Well, we don't treat the brain. We don't know what this is. We don't know why this. Your spinal tap was good, so you need to go see a brain specialist. We don't have one." Gee, thanks. You only have like 57, 9 hospitals in a chain and 57 doctor's offices around and specialties of everything. Apparently, there's no brain specialty. So, anyhow, I'll keep you posted. But I have severe migraines going on right now, and I think the pressure's off of my head, low pressure, and I get dizzy. I get so dizzy, like it's spinning. A lot of his guests, medics, police force, infantry, dealing with physical, and they share and healing together. Yeah, I'm going to reach out to him this week. Fly Fisher, thank you. And I've got some big news coming. It's going to come out to my subscribers first. The Michigan Outpost, I'm pretty sure you subscribed already. Fly Fisher, hit the subscribe button. It's going to be exciting. A part of it's going to involve this podcast, and a part of it is not. But I'm going to post a comment to the channel subscribers first before I come public with this. So please subscribe and watch out. I have a meeting this week, and then I'm going to post some details after this meeting. I just want everybody to know that you can come on here. And last episode, I got a picture out, and it was like, you look at the color, and it's like a paint by numbers. I got it out. I got the paintbrush out. Didn't even get to the point of painting it, but I'm going to. But crafting, painting, anything, I'm just putting down the guns and the knives, putting some things down, and doing something that's going to help give me some personal relief, release and relief, relief and release, and some communication. There's a lot of people that are struggling mentally, that are going through a pain management crisis, which is going to be a different episode. All of a sudden, due to this fentanyl crisis and the ketamine, my wife has a nerve disease and used to do ketamine treatments for that. Thank you. Fly fishing, make sure you're subscribed to me. Big announcements coming really soon. I'm having a meeting this week. And then I'm going to reach out to Sean Ryan, like you said, and just tell him, and I kind of wanted to do this episode before I did Recognizing Signs. Man, I'm telling you, I was in the military from 85 to 90. I was overseas. I said this in the last episode. I was over in Turkey, and I happened to be down checking the perimeter. I was camouflaged. I was tactical. The perimeter was maintained by the Turkish army guys, and the rank is based on their income. Well, if your parents don't have money, then you're basically like an E1, and you do grunt work for 2 years because they have the mandatory draft as long as you pass the physical. Well, this guy fell asleep on his post, so he's up in like this deer stand above me. It's a shack, a weather shack. He's got holes he's looking out for. And the sergeant came by to check on him. He's asleep. I'm laying there looking up, and the sergeant shoots him right over top of my head. Blood dripping down through the cracks of the floor, dripping down on the ground right next to where I'm laying. Yeah, there's some things that happened that I should have recognized that it might bother me later. But tell people, share people, tell them, and people don't have to, if they've got time, get a painting, get a piece of picture, get anything, and sit down, just listening to what I'm saying, because I'm proud of people that would even consider they might have PTSD. You don't have to come out and admit it. It's kind of like, families, every family has somebody that has alcohol problems. And it's hard, there's denial. You got to admit it, like with anything else in drug abuse, any kind of substance abuse, they've got to admit it. Don't wait till they come out and say, hey, hey, call you by name. I just figured out that I have this. Don't wait till they do that. If you think that they're thinking about it, tell them you're proud of them. You're proud of people for working it through their head that they might have addictions, they might have PTSD. And just because they're thinking about it is a very important step, because I thought for many years, do I have PTSD or not? Do I not? Yes, no, yes, no. No, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. Why would I? Well, because I went through this, I've been to 2 police academies and I'm tough. No, that's not why. I denied it because I wasn't smart enough to realize I had it and try and figure out how to get some understanding of this and a grasp of living with it sooner. So share this with family, share with friends. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you for fly fishing. Wish you the best too. Thanks for joining here. Keep an eye out. Going to eventually have a designated date and time weekly. I want to get to where I'm going to schedule so people can have it. Or even if I'm changing dates and times, announce it a week ahead of time. I know people work different shifts, different sleep patterns. We're dealing with time zones here. So, you can Google it. Google says Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are best times. 5 a.m. is great when people are driving to work. You know what? There's a lot of people driving to work at 3 in the afternoon and 11 at night, too. So, they've got statistics. I want to try and meet the world that I know that it is, not a Google statistic, not the AI statistic. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. I hope your Christmas was wonderful. Today's December 28th. And have a safe and happy New Year coming up. I'm not sure in the next few days. My announcement will come out, and there'll be another episode coming this week. I do have some MRIs Monday and Friday coming up. Busy schedule, getting this epidural steroid up here into my neck right in here. As soon as insurance approves it, getting that ASAP. So kind of depends on that schedule as well. Thanks everybody. Thanks for joining. Just reading the comment here. Have a great day and a happy new year.